Welcome back for another episode of the Vitamin C's podcast, proud part of the CLNS Media Network. I am your host, Tim Shields, and I am joined by my co host, Wayne Breezy Brown. Wayne, how are we feeling today, man?
I'm good today, actually. I did my greatest or best job in accepting what happened, but there were some really good, some really good things to take away from what happened. I will say that. I feel like I know a lot of people want to point the blame at certain people and things like this. If I could blame anyone, it would be the Celtics. I think if they didn't put themselves in that situation, then it wouldn't have came down to what it came down to. So we'll get into it on the show though. But I'm good overall.
Likewise, and I get it. I mean, I've kind of come to terms with it. I think going into Philly, I expected them to split those games just because as much as Boston has Philly's number, Philly still has some really great talents, including James Harden, who apparently when he decides to can score 40 points every once in a while still, even at his current physique. And then Joel Embiid starting to get a little bit healthier. He was moving pretty well in game 4, but you walk out of that 1-1. And I mean, if you look to the West too, I mean, the Nuggets won 2 straight and then they lost 2 straight. So like, what would you feel better about? Would you feel better about, splitting at home and then going on the road and splitting on the road, or
Right.
winning 2 straight and then losing 2 straight? I think I actually prefer what ended up happening with the Celtics, where you split at home because you needed to get your act together. This is an opponent that you need to take seriously, and it comes down to execution. In particular in these games, I mean, James Harden hits these two threes, and that's really the deciding factor. Um, I think if the Celtics put themselves in a better spot, you're looking at going back home with a 3-1 lead, or this series is actually over in a 4-0 sweep. And it comes down to guarding their best shooter, who is James Harden. He's the best offensive player on the floor for them right now. And the way I'll reframe it is that it took James Harden getting like 40 points in these two wins in order for the 76ers to barely, barely sneak by the Celtics. So, I mean, like, you can frame it like that if you want,
Yeah.
if that makes you feel better. To a degree, it makes me feel better, but
It makes
it's
me feel
not.
better as well. In the moment, I didn't want to hear that. In the moment, I was saying to myself, you can't leave a shooter wide open. I don't
Mhm.
care if it's PJ freaking Tucker. You don't leave anybody in the NBA. The only people you can leave wide open in the NBA is someone from the Boston Celtics. For some
Whoa.
reason, they can't hit wide open 3-point shots. I know that's a shot, but we missed a couple. A couple fell short. Marcus Smart had the game winner wide open. Al Horford missed a wide open shot to where it's, and I'm not blaming them. I'm just saying in the NBA, don't leave shooters wide open, especially to the caliber of a James Harden. And then he made it hard, for no pun intended, for the Boston Celtics. Those two games, 40 plus points. And both games they barely squeaked by. So a lot of upside though. What I got from game 4 was resiliency, again, adversity, and them damn near overcoming it. I mean, they damn near overcame that swing, and it was
16
crazy.
point
Like,
lead. I mean, that's a big deficit.
that's a huge deficit in a playoff game. The Boston Celtics are resilient, Tim, and I think people understand that. But I think the Celtics fan base, we just get a little frustrated because, for me, I guess what frustrated me the most is, why are we in this predicament? Why did we go down 16 or 17? Why did we even get into a hole like that to where we had to dig ourselves out of it? Did we overcome it? Yup. Did we take the lead? Yup. Could we had won? Yup. Like, all of that stuff could have happened, just like we could have blown a 16 or 17-point lead as well. But the question is, don't, for the Celtics on the road, don't put yourselves in that predicament. And let's start with the best player on the team. And I know a lot of people don't like to criticize our Jason Tatum, but we can do some constructive criticism with him. I mean, they're defending him crazy. They're double teaming him on just about everything. He had one turnover, I believe, in the first half, but it was a crazy, weird looking one. Like, you don't gotta force it. I thought Tatum was forcing a lot of stuff. He was taking shots. He was trying to get into a rhythm, and you want that. But I thought the best way to get into a rhythm was get an easy bucket, get an easy 2 points around the bucket. Tatum could finish. He's been finishing all series. They're giving him buckets in the inside. And so I felt like Tatum, if he could have been a little better offensively scoring. I want to put the word scoring in front of that because other than that, he was a monster in the game. Assists, rebounds, like he was still doing Tatum stuff. He just couldn't find the ball going to the net, Tim. It was a little weird.
I think that cold start really kind of screwed the Celtics. I think they put themselves in such a hole. And if your best player doesn't have it, then you're kind of just digging yourself into a really, really bad deficit. You're just not going to come out of easily. Um, I honestly think that Tatum's struggles really impacted Jalen Brown, like big time. I think it threw Jalen Brown off, and he didn't get as many looks as he should
Do
have.
do tell. Do you mean later on in the game?
I think from after the first quarter.
Interesting. I have a little different take, but this is interesting because
Give me
Jalen Brown,
first.
well, Jalen Brown, Tim, couldn't, for some reason, I felt like he didn't know what to do to close out the game. He barely took any shots in the overtime. I thought that was awkward for a guy. I don't know if he ran out of gas.
He
The
didn't take
reason
any shots in OT. He didn't.
Well, the reason why I said that's interesting is because, well, my take is this, and I know it might not make sense, but it made sense in my head. That's the only thing that mattered, right? Jalen Brown, in the first 2 minutes of the game, had 2 fouls. Granted, he was scoring at will. He was shooting from the three. He was getting to the basket. He was getting buckets. But you knew at some point, I knew that they had to take Tatum out Brown out. Because God forbid he got that third foul in the first quarter. It would have been a really bad game. I felt like those 2 fouls changed the trajectory of the game and to where James Harden was able to get off. James Harden could not score when Jalen Brown was defending him at the beginning. I didn't even know Jalen Brown played this great of a defense. But against James Harden, he's playing really good defense. The moment he came out of the game, Boston still couldn't figure out their offense because Tatum was a little stagnant. And that's when Philly started cooking. They took the lead, and they had the lead for the majority of the game. I don't know if you saw it the same way, but that was the breezy vision. That's what I got out of that.
So my takeaway from it was I think Jalen got going early. He was their offense early on. And I think after that point, they went away from him because they were trying to get Tatum going. And it just threw it off.
Oh, I see. I
Let me
love it.
let me pull up the stats for it
But I
because
love that. I didn't see that, and I forgot that. But I love that. I love that you brought that to my attention. I love it. Wow.
so in the first quarter, Jalen was 5 of 7, 2 of 4 from 3. In the second quarter, he was 2 of 4, 0 of 1 from 3.
Mm-hmm.
Third quarter, 2 of 2.
Mm.
Fourth quarter, 1 of 3.
See,
OT, he had 0 shot attempts.
I told
No
you.
rebounds, no assists, no steals, no blocks, no nothing. He played the full 5 minutes, didn't get a single shot attempt up.
But why? That can't be offensive game plan. That can't be that.
It's not offensive game plan. I think it was just a symptom of the situation. So if you look at it, they were really force feeding Tatum. I mean, they had completely different starts.
Understood.
Brown was 5 of 7, Tatum was 0 of 5 and 0 of 2 from 3.
Yeah.
I don't think Tatum
He went 1 for 8 at the beginning.
Tatum hit his first shot like within the last minute of the second quarter, so like the last minute of the first half.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't going for him before that point. And it was bad, man. It was bad.
Here's the thing, Tim. I love Jason Tatum. He's like my favorite player. But at the end of the day, you got to go with what's working. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And Tatum should be Coach Mazzulla has to understand, like, you can't force things in basketball. And remember I said I thought Tatum was forcing stuff? He was. He was forcing his shot. He was trying to get into a rhythm. He was trying to hit that three. You know he got it. And granted, it came through when we needed it. We ended up taking the lead. I thought Marcus Shaw hit a couple of big shots. Al Horford hit a couple of big shots. Derek White is still a ghost. Malcolm Brogdon was official until he turned that ball over. Then they just took him out of the game. I don't understand. Like sometimes our coaching. I thought Grant Williams gave you okay minutes. He was getting bodied a lot, but with Tatum, you can't allow him to force it. Things got to come naturally from him. That's when he plays his best basketball. I feel like for Tatum, if I'm Jason Tatum, F me. I can get you involved. They're doubling me anyway. So
True.
let me get a block shot and then throw it down to you at the other end of the court. And then bam, easy bucket in transition, right? Like Tatum's defense was good yesterday. It was damn near great. He was rebounding. Like Tatum was playing. I mean, I know he finished with 25. I think he finished with 25, but at the end of the day, like not being able to get going until the end of the second quarter, that's a super duper slow start. That's way past slow. That's tortoise slow. Like, and I mean, and we didn't finish at the end, so he wasn't the hare. He remained whoever won that damn race. He was the hare. I don't know. At the end of the day,
The tortoise, the
the
tortoise
tortoise one,
one,
right?
the
At the end
tortoise
of the
one.
day, terrible analogy, guys. Don't use that one. But at the end of the day, like Jason Tatum is a superstar and he can get involved in other ways. I thought James Harden had one of the worst playoff performances in game 3, but if you check the box score, if you check his stats, the dude was getting assists like crazy. He was getting other people involved. Unfortunately, he just wasn't the factor that can help you get scoring. With game 5 coming up, it's a must-win game. I don't care what anybody says. The Celtics are the best team in this series. They hands down they're the better team. It's just which version of the Celtics are you going to get?
It's execution. It's really execution. And I
I
think
know I'm ranting.
honestly, the thing that kills me the most is you look at the performance on the whole. You're down 16, you come all the way back, you make a game of it, you jump ahead, and not getting a couple offensive rebounds, not
Mhm.
calling a timeout here or there, it puts you in that spot. You had a chance to go ahead and steal a game that probably would have broken the 76ers. I think if you took that game, you really, really would have broke them. And you still have the chance to do that in game 5. I just think that that was a great chance to do so on the road after having such a big lead for them to blow it. And I mean, it still took so many things falling James Harden, like, having that three-pointer and having the night that he did, like, a 40-point plus performance. He had, like, 9 assists, 8
But
rebounds,
I'm
6 to 9 from deep, like, just an insane stat line. And it's gonna take a monster performance like that. It's Joel Embiid having a good night, getting to the line a lot, getting a ton of
they
calls,
got to the
and
line.
looking garbage while he did it. I mean, 12 of 15 from the
Mhm.
free throw line, like,
They got
just
to the line.
so ridiculous, and some of the calls are so stupid, and for honestly, for Doc Rivers to come out and piss and moan about a
About the
push-off on
push
Tatum,
off?
1, I totally agree, I get it was a push-off. 2, you can't go ahead and call that push-off in the last minute because you don't like it, because it's been happening the entire goddamn series. It's
That's
exactly what James Harden does, it's exactly what Joel Embiid does. They
thank
do
you.
it all the time. You
Hold up. I
cannot
got the
complain
ding
about,
ding.
like, and then and then
Here we
Doris
go.
Burke having the goddamn nerve to sit there on the broadcast and talk about Marcus Smart embellishing calls when she's like, you are clearly caping
She should
for
be fired.
one team. No,
I
see, I really like Doris
No,
Burke.
no, no. I don't like her when she calls Celtics games. She can
I don't
call
know
any
what it
other
is.
game.
I don't
Yeah,
know what it is, man. It's
she
so
just does
crazy.
not like the Boston
It's
Celtics.
weird.
She tries her hardest, but there's nothing good that she says. We could have won that game, and then she would have just talked about the push off.
Malcolm Brogdon hit that three. I don't know if you saw the replay, and she reacted like someone shot Old Yeller. She was just like, "Wow." It's like, "That's all you got?" Like, really?
Listen, she's an amazing
She's a
broadcaster.
fantastic broadcaster. I just don't know
Yeah,
what the hell's going on there.
I just
But
don't understand why there's just nothing. Even her positive comments are like
kind of
negative.
backhanded almost.
Yeah, yeah, I
Just
get it
sort of
too.
rough.
It's hard to watch when she's commentating because you know you're gonna get some dog talk about the Boston Celtics. But at the end of the day, look, I feel like they just showed resiliency, and so what that means is they're the team that would win in the long haul. If this game went 7 series, you can count that the Boston Celtics would come out on top. So I would expect the Celtics to take game 5. I would expect them to find a way to blow game 6. And then I would expect them to take game 7. I
Why,
think that's kind of what happened, right?
why
They
do you
blew
wish to hurt me?
they blew game 2 and they blew game 4. They
Well,
blew it.
no, they blew game one. They
They
won
blew
game
I'm
two in
sorry,
a
they blew
blowout.
game 1. You know what
Yeah,
I meant.
I know what you meant.
And they
I know, I
still
got
could have
you. I got you.
they still could have they still could have won. That's the crazy part. It was a close game, 4 points, right?
Yeah,
So they blew game 1 cuz James Harden had 45. And then Tim, here's my thing, right? Just one person you just don't want to cook. Give me 50 from Embiid. If he gives me 50, oh well. Give me 50. I don't think he can get 50. Take
not right. Well, unless he's taking free throws, not right now. I think if you make him have to be the creator, like I just don't know if I see. Like the only thing is you got to take James Harden out of the equation
That's my
because right now
well. You answered. You solved my problem. I was getting ready to say, let Embiid get 50. Let him get 60 for all I care. Find a way to eliminate James Harden. I'm
can't
telling
be
you.
doubling. They can't be doubling off of Harden. And we got to talk about the last play.
Okay,
Okay.
let's do it.
So going into that, I think the important thing is to keep in mind that Harden three came off of a timeout. So
It did. It did.
my question is going into that situation, what did Joe exactly tell his team? Like, what was he focusing on? Was he focusing on drawing up the next play so they would have, hey, this is what we're going to do for the next offensive possession? And he wasn't worried about the defensive possession? Did he tell them to take away the three and Jalen Brown just didn't listen?
Does he
Did he
talk
say,
to them?
hey, just like keep it like, no, but like, what was said before that possession that drove Jalen Brown to go ahead and collapse on Embiid and leave James Harden, who at that point was 5 of 8 from 3?
And that's
Why
the
did you leave
easiest
him?
one to hit.
You put him in the corner wide open for a late contest, and so
He
that
almost
drove me
blocked it too.
crazy. I d
Yeah.
it's
It dro-
crazy, man, like, you shouldn't even put yourself in that situation to begin with, like, you had a chance to close it out in regulation. You had a chance to, like, really get some space there, and you just there's a couple things that just didn't break your way, and you know what? At the end of the day, if the Celtics took that game, they would have stolen that game. They did not deserve to win it, like, at all. I don't think
right.
they did, man. Like, you trail by
Because
16.
yeah, I understood.
It
Understood.
w you were stealing a road win.
Understood.
Ro if you go into an opponent's building, they blow a lead that big, and you manage to win that, that's stealing by all means, and
I maybe that's why this one doesn't sting as much as game 1.
I think that's probably what it is. I think also just expecting your team to go into another building and take both games is just not necessarily realistic. Like
Hmm.
if you have to, like if it's to avoid to stave off elimination and it's just like backs against the wall, then okay.
It's different
But
basketball, yeah.
it's different basketball right now because it's not a situation where they have to do that. Um,
Understood. But
I,
man, if they would have won that game, you said it earlier, they probably would have taken like the ghost out of the 76ers, right? They would have
that
had
would
their
have been it.
souls
Yeah, I
because
think
now that team has to dig back, claw back, fight back, and the Celtics can go out there and just punch them back and then find a way to close it out. Like that's what you wanted, and
yeah,
that's why game 1 hurts the most because you
that was a game
got
you should have shown up for and you
that's
didn't.
you had home court. You should have won game 1. I don't
Mhm.
care if they had every day to rest. You and it came down to James Harden hitting the shot over Al Horford. How you figured that? It came down to that. That's what it came down to. I'm getting mad again. That's what it came down to.
All right, all right. Do you wanna get mad at something else?
Let's get mad at
Because
something else.
all right, so, obviously, after that three-pointer, Celtics just took the ball up, was just a really slow action. I think they ran the same exact play that they ran at the end of regulation where you
They
found
got the
Marcus Smart in
mismatch,
the
right?
slot,
Hmm.
for that three-pointer, and he missed that one in regulation at the end of the 4th quarter. That didn't fall. He hits this one, but it's about, a few tenths of a seconds too late. Ball is still on his hands when the shot
Shot
clock
clock.
expires. So Tatum admits after the game that he was too slow to get into his actions. Yeah, that's clear. He's like, I was a second too late. Yeah, I totally agree with that. My issue is they could have had more time there. They had two timeouts left. 28 seconds. Joe Mazzulla, where's the adjustment here? Okay. Cause like you're going to sit there and tell me that regardless of what was going to happen in that possession from the 76ers, whether they scored a two pointer or a three pointer or they got nothing, you were just going to run the same exact play, same exact offensive set right after that.
But
Like
that
if they
doesn't make
tied the
sense,
game up,
Tim.
it doesn't make sense. There was zero adjustment on that. As soon as James Harden hits the three, you need to call a timeout to regroup your guys to figure out what's the next move. Like you
Or let them dribble it up the court and then let them see what defensive set they're in and then call the timeout. Then draw up a different type of play. Like that, like
They
even if
weren't they weren't getting out and running, you know?
no,
So
no.
that's part of the reason why some teams don't call timeouts. Ime Udoka, game 1 against the Nets, didn't call a timeout, but the Celtics ran that ball up the court and didn't let the defense get set. So, like,
That's my
they
point.
were in the early offense when that stuff happened. Granted, like, the Nets defended that perfectly and Tatum managed to get the shot up at the buzzer, but they don't always go like that. But the
I
point is like they could have made some kind of call or adjustment, and
It
you
doesn't
let a
add up,
guy hit a
Tim.
3-pointer. It doesn't make sense, and I think it got more frustrating seeing a quote from Joe Mazzulla today. This was from 4 hours ago. I wanna say this was must have been at practice availability. This is from Chris Forsberg of NBC Sports Boston. Joe Mazzulla, "Hindsight is 2020. I should have called a timeout at the end of overtime to get us a 2 for 1 or get a couple more possessions. Obviously, 14 seconds left, down 1. You want as many chances as you can. So definitely learn from that. Hindsight is not 2020 if this has happened to you multiple times. This is not hindsight anymore. This is the one thing that I will get mad and I will get on Joe about. He was right about the three-pointers. He's right about the way that the offense needs to operate. But this stuff right here, man, this stuff right here, you
That's what makes you
cannot
mad.
give me that hook, line, cockamamie bullshit about hindsight is 2020. This has happened before. The Celtics have been in clutch situations this year, and for the most part, they've been bad. They have
Terrible.
failed to execute.
You want
They're
it's
bad in the
simple.
clutch. They're
It
bad.
How about not let Tatum touch the ball and find a way to get him open?
Yes. Have other people create for him. And that doesn't necessarily mean it needs to be Marcus Smart.
And
It can be anybody.
it could be a
How
big
do you not find Jalen Brown? Any looks? 0 looks in overtime. He deserved that last shot. If you're not gonna get it to Tatum, they gave it to Smart. Smart and Horford in clutch time are the guys who lead the Celtics in shot attempts just because that's the way that it's broken down. Because Jalen or Tatum are going to be covered. So you need to find ways to get those guys open. And you know how you do that? You call a timeout and you plan it through. Because that's where I'll get mad about it. I wasn't as mad until Joe said that stuff. And I'm like, hindsight's not 2020 if it keeps happening, Joe.
it's insanity.
It's insanity. And I like Joe. This is killing me to see him do this
Well,
again
I
and again. He's got to learn.
Tim, we talked about one of his issues would be inexperience,
Hmm.
and
Bingo.
you have to say, what it maybe learning now on the job is kind of difficult to do. But going forward in the future, this will be something he can definitely learn from. Some people can learn on the fly. Some people, you make a mistake and they be like, I ain't never making that mistake again. I'll make a different one. Some people are really good at that. Some people, they just got to keep making the same mistake over and over again, especially when they have that borderline insanity gene because they feel like they're right and they want to keep doing it until they right so they can be like, I told you it will work. Like, you know what I mean? But in this situation, he had 2 timeouts. You can't use them in the next game. You had time on the clock. And if we would have lost after he made those adjustments, I would be like, okay, cool. But
At least you tried.
at least you tried. And we talked about being inexperienced. We talked about playing, superior coaches. I don't care what you say about Doc Rivers or what anybody says
He's
about Doc.
experienced. He's
He's
experienced. If you can say
experienced
one thing about Doc, it's that he's very experienced.
from playing to coaching. He even has a chip with the Celtics. So
Yeah.
let that sink in. He's experienced and he has a good team. It's just when your team is better, they have to figure out how to overcome that last little piece of adversity, and it might just come down to the coach. It might not. Sometimes the players have to do the execution, but the coach got to put them in the right positions to win.
Hit the dinger for yourself
Oh,
on
my
that
bad.
one. Because I mean, come on. It does come down to execution, and the coach does need to put them in a better spot. I think this team is extremely experienced, and they're not stupid. They are very smart guys. I think and sometimes, like, I think they get so caught up in the moment that they just lose track of things. Like you've seen Smart have bad turnovers. You've seen Tatum have bad turnovers.
Yeah.
Brogdon had some bad turnovers,
Yeah.
obviously.
There was
Um,
one that I felt like Brogdon got taken out of the game. Might not have been because of that turnover, but we had like a good run to the basket.
5 fouls. Was it when he got
It
his
might have
fifth
been his
foul?
fifth foul. I think
Yeah, and then they pulled him. They put Derek White in.
yeah.
Yeah,
Which defensively, as soon as he came in, he got you a turnover. He just couldn't
yeah,
score. Derek White,
yeah,
he's just struggling for some reason.
yeah. And I mean, part of that's also I think when Tatum struggles, the offense struggles as a whole because he operates as a creator, and he still found ways to be effective and impact the game. He had like 18 rebounds,
I told you
which is
he was
crazy.
boarding. Yeah,
I mean, it's just if the threes aren't there, then he needs to get to the cup. But then when he's not getting calls, it's like
he
how more often can I keep continuing to do this? And
understood Tim.
he got a second win in the second half, which was great. I mean, he was a big part of the reason why they were in it at the end, but it's like you hit a couple shots in the first quarter or the second
It's a
quarter,
different ball game.
it's a completely different ball game. And I think that comes down to execution starting with, coming out with the right energy. And they need to do that now on Tuesday night. Going into this, this is a crucial game 5 without a doubt. You're at home. This is a team that you should have on the ropes. You should. And now it's a best of 3 series. Do I think the Celtics can win this? Absolutely. There's an entire realm of possibility where they don't. But I agree with you. I think they're the best team that's out there. I don't see a lot of teams in the East that can handle them
Mm-mm.
when they're not busy getting in their own way. It's a big
And that,
caveat.
well, hey man, at least we can't say we're insane from that because that's just been the thing all season long. They find ways to lose. They get in their own way, and in this game, um, they allowed Philly to get cooking. But again, their resiliency allowed them to come back. And, unfortunately couldn't hit the game winning shot in the end of regulation. They hit the game winning shot in overtime, but it was a little too late. So going into game 5, the Celtics, in my opinion, no more slow starts. Come out, find ways to get buckets, whether they're easy buckets at the rim. I will say that Philly upped their defense, they upped their level of defense. They're trying to take away the interior of the Celtics scoring easy. Is a big reason why Derek White, you know what I'm saying, isn't getting those easy baskets at the rim. But Malcolm Brogdon had a couple of weird attempts trying to get through holes and things like that. But man, he is finding ways to get to the rim. And for some reason, the refs are calling foul. Got to find a way to make him your ball handler, especially when coming off the bench. Got to let him get more involved. He took some weird threes, but boy, they go in. I don't question them anymore. They they're weird looking, but
Five
they
of
go in.
eight, just 5 of 8. I still can't believe how efficient he is. And I think, yeah, again, he's got such a flat shot. You just figure that some of them clunk off, and now and then you see a couple that pop off. I mean, Al Horford had a 3-pointer that rattled out, and that
It went
one's
in and out. I
that
know.
that.
That was a wide open one. He's got to find a way
I
to
mean,
get.
it was there. It was there. It just literally it just didn't spin in the
It
basket
cheated.
the right
The
way.
rims cheated.
You buttered it up. You put
Yeah.
some Pam on it or something.
Has some Crisco
But,
on them rims.
look, I think after all of that stuff, they still were found a way to be in it at the end of the game. I think there's a really good chance that, they come out with better energy and a better effort. I think this really comes down to including Jalen Brown more frequently in the offense. It can't just be the first quarter fire starter to get your offense going. He was the only one who had anything going on early because Jason Tatum started off the game 0 of 5. So you need Tatum to have a better start too. But you can't you can't sacrifice looks for Jalen Brown in order to keep Jason Tatum going. And so I think you need to find ways to stagger those guys so you have a consistent flow of offense, whether it's going through Jalen Brown or going through Jason Tatum. Stagger those guys as much as you can. And then, yeah, play them together by all means. But like, you can't be forcing the ball into Tatum's hands and trying to get him going in order to, get him hot and then just give up on the guy who started off the game 5 of 7. Like, Jalen Brown's the better shooter in my mind. He's a more consistent shooter. He's not necessarily a better creator. He's a better play finisher in my mind.
Mhm.
The biggest knock on him is his handles and when he falls asleep on off-ball defense, which we saw clearly
I
with
don't
that
know if
play.
he fell asleep or if he had a
He took
dir
ownership. I'll give him that much.
he did. And that's something that we could big up. He definitely said that, he slipped on that one. But that was a hard slip too, man, because it's like I get it. It's Embiid. But at the end of the day, make him finish. If he gets fouled, then it's 3 the hard way, right? If he
It would
even
be
makes the
two.
shot.
It would be two
That's what I'm saying.
if he gets the and one. I
And
mean,
one,
like,
that's what I meant. Yeah, you
yeah,
know what I
no,
meant. If he
I
made it
get
and
you.
got fouled, then it's 3 the hard way. But if not, it's a 2-pointer. If there's no foul, and then if he misses, you just got to get the rebound. If we would have got one of those 2 rebounds, be a different game.
Yeah, a two doesn't kill you there, but a 3-pointer does,
The
and that's
3-pointer
exactly
was a
what happened.
dagger.
But hopefully, we'll see a different effort from them going Game 5. I believe it's a 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tip-off. But other than that, do we have anything else for today, Wayne?
Bang, bang, we good to go. Seize up, baby. It's time to
All
take
right.
this lead.
Amen to that. This has been the Vitamin C's, proud part of the CLNS Media Network, and we will catch you next time. Hang in there. Cheers.
Sign up at FanDuel.com/Boston and make every moment more on America's #1 sportsbook.